The Honda NC750X enters its 14th model year as a quietly practical, do-it-all motorcycle. Built around a relaxed 745cc parallel twin, an optional automatic DCT, and a clever underseat storage compartment, it targets commuters and light tourers rather than thrill seekers. Here's where it shines and where it falls short. The NC750X's signature party trick is hiding the fuel tank under the seat and turning the space where a traditional tank would sit into a roughly 23-liter lockable storage compartment. That's enough room to swallow a full-face or adventure-style helmet, with an optional USB socket tucked into the upper corner and an optional divider for keeping smaller items organized. It sounds gimmicky until you actually own one. Being able to lock a helmet, gloves, or a grocery run into the bike itself with no top case or backpack required is the kind of everyday convenience that no direct rival in this class currently matches. It turns the NC750X into a legitimate commuter tool rather than just a styling exercise. And it's the single feature owners consistently cite as the bike's most distinctive advantage. Honda tuned the 745cc twin for efficiency over outright performance, and it shows at the pump. Official figures point to consumption around 3.5 to 3.8 liters per 100 kilometers, with real-world owner logs frequently landing in the 60-plus miles per gallon range, and UK testers claiming up to 80 miles per gallon under careful riding. Despite a modest 14.1-liter, 3.7-gallon fuel tank, that efficiency translates into a usable range of roughly 400 kilometers, 280 miles between fill-ups. For a bike with adventure touring styling, that combination of a small tank and a long range is unusual, making the NC750X one of the most economical midsize motorcycles sold today, with running costs that are hard for most competitors to match. The optional 6-speed dual-clutch transmission remains one of the NC750X's defining features. It shifts automatically based on the selected riding mode, or lets the rider take manual control through handlebar-mounted triggers, with no clutch lever or foot shifter required. Honda refined the DCT's low-speed logic again for this generation, borrowing the same clutch oil pressure update used on the Africa Twin, which smooths out starts and slow-speed maneuvering in traffic. For commuters dealing with stop-and-go streets, or for riders returning to motorcycling after time away, removing the clutch from the equation meaningfully reduces fatigue and the learning curve, without sacrificing the option to shift manually when the road opens up. Because the fuel tank sits under the seat rather than up front, the NC750X carries its mass low and centrally, which keeps the bike feeling stable and manageable at a standstill and at parking lot speeds, despite a curb weight north of 220 kilograms. That low center of gravity is paired with an accessible 31.6-inch seat height, a wide, upright handlebar position, and a seat tuned by Honda to stay comfortable over multi-hour stretches. The result is a motorcycle that's friendly to shorter or less experienced riders in heavy traffic, yet composed enough on B-roads and highways for longer trips. It's not a thrilling riding position, but it is an unusually forgiving and fatigue-free one. The liquid-cooled parallel twin uses a long-stroke design, a 270-degree crank, and a high-inertia crankshaft to deliver the bulk of its 69 Newton-meters of torque as early as 4750 RPM, so the bike pulls cleanly away from stops and rolls on in traffic without needing to be revved hard. Twin balancer shafts keep that engine smooth while still giving it a distinctive twin-cylinder throb. Just as important is the NC750X's reputation for durability. The engine is a derivative of a design Honda has used in millions of cars and motorcycles, and owners regularly report well over 100,000 kilometers, with little beyond routine maintenance. For buyers who want a bike that simply keeps running, that long-term reliability is worth as much as any spec sheet number, and it helps explain why the used NC750X market stays so well stocked with high-mileage examples still going strong. A 745cc twin producing 58 horsepower and 51 pound-feet of torque is on the soft side for the class, and it's the complaint that comes up most often in owner and reviewer feedback. The engine is tuned deliberately for smoothness and economy rather than excitement, so acceleration is adequate rather than thrilling, and the bike runs out of enthusiasm well before redline. Riders upgrading from smaller displacement machines will likely find the extra torque satisfying, but more experienced riders, or anyone cross-shopping against quicker middleweights, may come away wishing Honda had extracted more performance from the architecture, especially given the engine has had this same general output for several model years now. The NC750X wears upright bars, a tall windscreen, and rugged-looking bodywork that suggest light off-road ability, but the underlying hardware doesn't really back that up. It rides on 17-inch cast aluminum wheels rather than the spoked wheels typically found on capable adventure bikes. Ground clearance is limited to around 5.6 inches, and the front fork offers no adjustability, with only preload adjustment on the rear shock. None of this is a problem for paved commuting, which is clearly the bike's actual purpose, but buyers drawn in by the ADV-inspired look should understand that gravel roads and anything rougher than a well-graded fire trail will quickly expose the NC750X's street-focused limits, and that more capable dual-sport machines exist if genuine off-pavement travel is the goal. Closely tied to the off-road limitation above, the suspension is built on a budget and tuned for comfort and predictability rather than control. It works well enough around town and on smooth highways, but several reviewers note that it transmits bumps and road imperfections fairly directly rather than soaking them up, and that the bike doesn't reward being pushed hard through corners. This isn't a flaw so much as a reflection of priorities, since Honda clearly built the NC750X to be easy and cheap rather than sporty. But riders who enjoy a more engaging backroad pace may find the chassis feels out of its depth fairly quickly. Despite its mid-size displacement, the NC750X carries a curb weight of roughly 224 to 228 kilograms, about 494 to 498 pounds in DCT form, which is heavier than several competing 750cc class motorcycles, including Honda's own naked CB750 Hornet. The low, centralized mass helps disguise this somewhat at parking lot speeds, and the bike never feels unwieldy in normal riding, but it's still noticeably portly on a spec sheet next to lighter rivals, and that extra mass works against both outright performance and the playful, flickable feel some riders want from a 750. The 2026 update is, by Honda's own framing, mostly a styling refresh. New color options, an increase in sustainable Durabio and recycled material content to around 34% of the bodywork, and little else mechanically different from the 2025 model that already received the bigger changes, like dual front discs and the 5-inch TFT display. Buyers hoping for a meaningfully updated machine this year will be disappointed. And in markets like the United States, the lineup is now limited to a single matte pearl white color and the DCT transmission only, since the manual gearbox version has quietly disappeared from sale entirely